If you have your own creepy story, I'm waiting for your email. All the information under the video. Thank you for watching. Please, press like and subscribe to my channel. Every morning since my wife and I installed the doorbell, I've gotten the motion detected notification at 3:37 a.m. It's been years since this started, and every morning it's the same. I checked the recording from the night prior and nothing is there. I've driven myself insane zooming into the video and trying to see anything. A cat, a raccoon, a person, but it's always nothing. Early this morning, I heard something scratching at our door. It sounded like a dog that needed to be let in. I heard this for a moment, and then it abruptly stopped. I was about to get out of bed and check the front door when my phone lit up the bedroom. The notification, motion detected, showed clearly on my phone under the time, 3:37. I pulled up the footage and all was still, nothing there. I attempted to go to sleep, and it was worthless, so I got up and sat on the couch staring at my phone. Around 5 a.m. I got another notification. Motion detected sent chills down my spine in the dark living room. This time something was visible behind my car in the driveway. Crouched behind the trunk of my car was a dark figure. The only detail fully visible from the camera was long nails, digging into the paint on the side. The rest of it was dark. Thin shins leading into bony knees were only seen as black against the gray of the concrete. Upon zooming in, I saw this thing just barely rocking side to side. I figured it was a person, so I gathered my courage and opened the front door, ready to scream at them to get away from my car. I started to yell, and my voice died immediately. Nothing was there. Confused and sure I saw something, I tagged back to my phone and pulled up the live camera. The only thing visible to the camera was teeth. Yellowed, large, and what appeared to be far too many. The dark red gums were bleeding into the front teeth, as the owner of them seemed to laugh. I looked at my phone in horror, not sure what to do. When I broke my frozen state, I grabbed my kitchen knife and ran at the front door. I had my phone in my left hand, and I kept looking at this creep as it began licking the lens, causing a filter of spit to blur out the camera. I took a deep breath and threw the door open with my knife ready to go. Nothing there. I dropped my guard and looked at my phone. I assumed someone was playing a prank on the camera. When I looked at the live footage, there he was, fully visible, although blurry, staring directly at me. His cheeks pushed into his dead eyes as he held the smile. The way his eyes stayed forward and just moved with the turn of his neck made me freeze. I dropped the knife. I put both hands onto my phone and held it close to my face, staring at this image of something clearly staring from my doorbell. I would look from my phone to the scene in front of me. Still nothing was visible in real life, but the footage on my phone said otherwise. I slammed the front door and picked up the knife I had dropped. I stayed still, staring at the live camera. He was gone. Nothing there. I continued intensely looking, my chest rising and falling at the pace of a scarred animal. Just as I was about to give up looking at the live feed, notifications exploded on my phone alerting me someone was ringing the doorbell. Notifications replaced other notifications, covering the top portion of the screen on my phone. I tried to exit the app, but the notifications covered my lock screen as well. The ringing doorbell was heard outside blasting its signature tune. Motion detected. Motion detected. Motion detected. You're going to die. Motion detected. I rubbed my eyes and tried to keep up with the notifications. I closed and reopened the app again, and all the notifications stopped. I checked the motion history in the app, and it was all there, abruptly ending after 5 a.m. I was so confused and scared I just stayed on the couch with my phone and knife in hand. After an hour of no notifications, I finally found the courage to open my front door. The door opened too easily. Right as I turned the doorknob, the door swung inward. I looked at the door first, shocked it swung open so quickly. Then I spotted the dead hand which lay on it, and the curled-over fingernails that left deep scratches into the wood. I could finally see him. Decaying flesh led to wrist, which led to arms skinny and rotten. I finally looked into his face. He was licking his front teeth quickly, holding the same smile I saw earlier on camera. It was so much worse in real time. Earlier on camera he looked haunting, blurry, but he was so clear standing right in front of me. He was 2 feet away. I noticed how sunken his eyes were. I noticed how wide his smile really was, literally grinning from ear to ear. His shoulders and neck were shrugged up in a rigid stance. All he did was continue to hold the door with one arm and stare at me while licking his teeth quickly. I tried to pry the door shut, but my attention was forced to his blackened tongue, running back and forth over his front teeth. I tried desperately hard to close the door, but he stayed unmoving. I realized I had left the knife on the end of the couch. I had to act, so I made a move for the knife as fast as possible. I turned to quickly grab it. When I turned around and swung wildly, the blade connected with nothing. I slammed the door into place. My wife exited our bedroom and rubbed her eyes. "What's going on? Is everything okay?" I didn't know where to start. I just started talking and tripping over my own words. Her eyes grew wide, and she pulled out her own phone to check her Ring app. She almost dropped her phone while looking at all the notifications. She pulled up the videos and screamed out when she saw him. I hugged her and tried to comfort her. Still hugging me and behind my back, she kept clicking and watching the motion-detected notifications. I felt her tense up. She whispered into my neck, "He hasn't left." I broke the hug and grabbed her shoulders. "What did you just say?" "Look!" She showed me the last motion captured on the doorbell. He was holding the door open, and you can hear me struggling to close it. You can see in the video the exact moment I turned to quickly grab the knife. He simply steps inside and the recording ends. Staring at the phone's end of recording message, I began to feel something behind me. I let go of my wife and turned quickly. Nothing there. I went to the knife and picked it up before I turned to see him. I faced back towards my wife to tell her we needed to check the house. There he was, holding her from the side, pinning her arms to her ribs. I saw horror fill her face as his black tongue licks from her jaw, up her cheek, and to her temple. He was still staring at me, and still smiling even with his tongue out of his mouth. My wife screamed loudly, and it called me into action. My grip tightens on the knife. I lunge and I grab him by the collar. I plunged the knife into his shoulder, barely avoiding cutting my wife. My wife helps, and we have a strong enough hold onto him to drag him across the vinyl flooring to the front door. The thing begins laughing as we drag him. He's not making noise or moving his eyes. He's just silently laughing and breathing heavily with that crazy smile. We finally manage to get him to the front door and throw him out. My wife and I slam the door and slide the deadbolt into place. We called the cops immediately. We watched the Ring camera until the police showed up, but still, nothing. We showed them all the footage and they said they would try and find him. We haven't heard anything all day. At 8 p.m., our doorbell notified us it was low on battery, so I went to switch it out. When I popped the battery out, there was something that was carved into it with what appeared to be fingernails. "See you tonight." Story 2. When I moved to a small town in the mountains, I was seeking peace and solitude. The quiet and nature always attracted me, and the old house by the forest seemed like the perfect retreat. The neighbors told me the house had been vacant for many years, and some warned me about strange occurrences, but I dismissed them as local legends and superstitions. The first week was uneventful. I enjoyed the tranquility, took walks in the forest, and settled into the house. But then strange things started to happen. Every night I heard a faint whisper coming from behind the walls. At first I thought it was just the wind, but the sound was too distinct, as if someone was talking in the next room. One night, as I lay in bed, I heard someone walking through the house. The footsteps were heavy and slow, getting closer to my bedroom. I froze, listening. The door creaked, and the footsteps stopped. I gathered my courage and suddenly opened the door, but no one was there. The hallway was empty, but the feeling of being watched remained. The next day, I decided to explore the house more thoroughly. In the basement, I found an old trunk covered in dust. Inside were antique books, papers, and some personal belongings. Among them, I discovered a diary belonging to the previous owner of the house. Reading the diary, I learned the story of how the house was built in the early 20th century and belonged to the Henderson family. The last owner, John Henderson, was known in town as a strange and reclusive man. In his diary, he wrote about his studies of occult sciences and his search for ancient artifacts. The last entries were chaotic and filled with horror. John described how he found an old amulet in the forest and brought it home. After that, he began hearing voices and seeing shadows that followed him everywhere. I decided to return the amulet to the forest, hoping it would stop the strange events. In the evening, when the sun had already set, I took the amulet and headed to the place John described in his diary. The forest was dark and silent, and I felt the cold seeping into my bones. Finding an old stone altar, I placed the amulet on it and recited the words John had recorded as a ritual of release. At that moment, the forest came alive. Shadows appeared around me, and I heard whispers growing louder. The words were in an ancient language, but I felt the fear enveloping me. The shadows began to close in, and I realized I needed to leave. I ran back to the house, feeling something chasing me. When I returned home, I locked all the doors and windows, but the sense of danger did not leave me. I stayed up all night, listening to every sound. At dawn, everything went silent, and I felt a sense of relief. But upon inspecting the house, I discovered strange symbols on the walls that hadn't been there before. Since then, I've lived with the feeling that the house is watching me. Sometimes I see shadows at the edge of my vision and hear whispers in the night. I know I released something I shouldn't have touched. And now, that something is waiting for its moment. Story 3. When I first stumbled on the post titled "Trapdoor to Hell" by Scared in Milwaukee, it seemed like typical internet clickbait, as believable as a Nigerian prince's gold. I skimmed the line about filming and getting static before rolling my eyes and switching tabs. But the post and its attached video kept popping up, reblogged with titles like "Trapdoor to Hell" and "Disappeared or Dead." Eventually, curiosity got the better of me and I clicked. Scared in Milwaukee, 6:24 p.m. The trapdoor wasn't there before and isn't there now. My sis went down a bunch of times but could never remember what was down there. She tried filming but only got static. The last time she came back, she had "Don't come" scribbled on her arm in her own handwriting. She went anyway and didn't come back, so I went down a few times. The last time I came out screaming and lost my phone and ran for police. But when police got to the house, they thought I was pulling a prank. But it's real, we were urban exploring and now she's below and the trapdoor is gone. I can hear her calling for me. Abandoned house on redacted street. Can anyone help? Recording attached from before I lost my phone. Help PLs from Milwaukee, PLS. Not a hoax. PLS help. Nearly as convincing as not a hoax was the footage itself. The shaky camera slowly approaching the trapdoor opening, the screen cutting to static, and the faint, distorted moans of a voice pleading for help. How cliché. Still, despite its low-effort appearance, when the phone camera shakily turned to the girl holding it, Scared in Milwaukee looked genuinely terrified. She couldn't have been more than 15. Tears and snot glistened on her face, lips trembling as she whispered, "Chloe, Chloe, oh go to God." Quivering like an abused puppy. If it wasn't genuine, someone should give this kid an Oscar. But a trapdoor that doesn't exist? A trapdoor that makes you forget what's below? A trapdoor that leads where? The essential mystery convinced me to reach out to Scared in Milwaukee. The response came fast. So fast it was like she was waiting by her phone for a ping. Scared in Milwaukee. Plus, it's been 9 days. Oh God, I'm so scared it's too late. Can you come now? Scared in Milwaukee. Redacted address. St. Milwaukee. WI 532XX. I stared at the address, and my pulse ratcheted up. Why did I feel so much like a mouse sniffing some cheese conveniently laid across a metal plate? This morning, I finally did my due diligence and searched for missing girls named Chloe in the Milwaukee area. Not a single hit. Zilch. Nada. No missing sister. I'm being taken for a ride. And as a former scam artist myself, I should really recognize when the Prince of Nigeria is at the keyboard. I'll give her that Oscar, though. She really had me going. But as I'm about to block Scared in Milwaukee, my conscience nags. What if there's some other reason Chloe isn't showing up in your searches? My conscience, incidentally, sounds a lot like my ex. She's been living rent-free in my head since our breakup. Also on my screensaver, my iPhone lock screen, my tablet, the heart-shaped locket I wear around my neck. I'm kidding. Like any self-respecting dude gifted a cutesy heart-shaped necklace by his girl, I wear it only on our anniversary, which is never now that we're separated. What if, whispers my ex's voice, she's just a scared teen girl who's been told never to give her real details to strangers on the internet? What if the police, her parents, and everyone in her life have dismissed her just like you're doing now? Jack, what if it were me down there? And now I'm looking at my open locket in my hand. All right, fine, I've been wearing it all along. Framed inside the heart-shaped gold is the dimpled face of my girl, lips curved in a coy smile, one eye winking and her thumb and forefinger making a tiny heart. I've literally never been able to tell this girl no when she really wants something. Friends used to joke about how she kept me on a leash. Got you whipped, man, they'd say. Well, yeah, she knows all my kinks. Anyway, no sense arguing with myself when my locket has already decided. So I pack up my gear, high-powered lights, cameras, digital and analog, crowbar and toolkit, bear spray, bear traps, bear claw. The bear stuff is for dangerous cryptids, except for the bear claw, which is my snack. Flashlights, headlamp, portable generator, extra cell phone, extra batteries, extra underwear in case things get super scary. What? Decked out and ready to die, I arranged to meet Scared in Milwaukee. The interior of the house looks exactly as in the video. All dusty floorboards and a single armchair in the otherwise dim and derelict living room. The windows boarded except for a single window on which the board is broken, letting in a thin ray of wan light in which the dust motes dance. Beyond that, my flashlight barely illuminates the dingy interior as I poke my head through the door. The only difference from the video? No evidence of a trapdoor. No sign there ever was one. Scared in Milwaukee, incidentally, is actually a 14-year-old girl named Sophie, and she is terrified of me when we meet. Unsurprising given my hollow eyes, stubbled jaw and tattoos, and the joint dangling from my lips. The perfect visualization of stranger danger. Her terror evaporates, though, after I take one look in that creepy place and nope out. Gawking, she asks if I'm not even going in. No. You can practically hear the strains of scary violins. Too spooky, I declare. Then ask, what? As she stares at me. When it slowly dawns on her that I am dead serious, her estimation of me visibly drops from, I picked the bear, to, is this dude for real? And finally to that old cliche about men and mice. Well, squeak squeak, baby. I'm not walking into a place so pitch black it's just asking for something to grab my ankle and drag me down screaming. Why would I? No. I very sensibly grab a crowbar and spend some time tearing off those boarded windows. Once it's looking more like a sunroom, I escort us into the warm interior dripping with golden light. Much better, I say. Too soon. Because the second I cross the threshold, all the hairs on my arms stand on end. Huh. I look at the hairs. Guess this is what happens to your house when you don't pay the exorcist. It gets repossessed. Sophie doesn't appreciate how hilarious I am. Can you stop wasting time and find the door? Sure, but first, I turn to her. Why isn't your sister's disappearance in the news? I looked up her name. No missing Chloe. What's really down below, Sophie? Her cheeks flush. Her gaze drops from mine. Gotcha, I think, smiling. But when she finally admits the truth, it's not what I'm expecting. She's not in the news because her real name's Timothy. She's only out to me. Can you just find the fucking door, please? Oh, I say. Here I'd thought she was pulling some shitty teen prank, trying to trap me down here for likes or clicks or whatever. Maybe use the investigation to go viral. A quick search of her sister's dead name proves she's correct, and that I'm an asshole. Told you, whispers the girl in my locket. Chloe needs your help. And honestly, if anyone should have considered the possibility of a dead name mucking up my search results, should have been me. I apologize to Sophie and drop to my knees, close my eyes and cock my head like a coyote scenting the air, and run my hands over the wooden floorboards. I'm not a medium, but I am marked by the paranormal and have acquired a certain sensitivity to the uncanny, like how some people have sensitivity to odors. If what I've felt since entering this house were a smell, it would be the waft of something rotten drifting to my nostrils. A tingle like electricity passes along my fingers. Dust and dirt cling to my palms. To the naked eye, it's just bare wood. But I ignore what my eyes have been telling me since I entered. And here, where the tingling is strongest, I sweep my hands back and forth along the dirty floor. My fingers find a seam. I trace the edge, at last grabbing the handle. Sophie gasps and drops down beside me. Oh my God. Oh my God, you found it. It's warded, I say. Running along the seam are symbols etched into the floorboards, invisible until the door is found. Deciphering them would require pretty esoteric research. The girl in my locket would know. She was always smarter with that stuff. All I know is that the warding conceals the door. Probably also keeps whatever is down there sealed off, I tell Sophie. Whoever set this up doesn't want what's down there being found, and doesn't want anyone who does find it to go down there. It's the kind of spell work I'd expect from a serious occultist. You know anyone like that? She shakes her head. No, I don't. She trails off. Her eyes meet mine, and I raise my brows. Chloe knew, she admits. I see. I glance around the sun-drenched room. You should leave, I suggest, then start prying at the warded door with my crowbar. No, I'm coming with you. Look, Chloe might be down there, or she might be dead. Sophie flinches. But one way or the other, she came out with a warning. So it's dangerous down there and you shouldn't come. She hesitates, but eventually gives in and leaves. Smart girl. With Sophie safely outside, I finally lift the trapdoor. Beneath lies a short drop into a dark, dank basement. I've barely clambered down and Sophie reappears beside me, to my surprise and irritation. I shake my head, but it's too late to send her out again, so I only move carefully ahead. She insists on sticking close, and any time I touch her arm, she jumps. It's probably not a great sign that the further in we go, the more Sophie mutters under her breath. I don't have the heart to tell her we may never find her sister. It's dark, cramped, and stifling. My breaths are loud and heavy. The air is musty, tainted with something bitter. We navigate through a narrow tunnel lined with rotting wooden beams, leading deeper into the earth. And at the far end, the air is wet and humid. Sophie's muttering grows louder as if to drown out the rising tide of fear. I pull her along with me as we enter a small chamber that branches into 3 tunnels. Sophie's grip on my hand tightens, her voice a hushed chant of Chloe, Chloe, Chloe. Ahead, the narrow tunnel branches into 3 more paths. That's when I realize we're in a labyrinth. Sophie halts beside me, her eyes wide and scared. Which way? I don't answer, because I'm no longer sure. I try one tunnel, which leads to another tunnel, which branches into 2 more. Sophie's growing agitated, her murmurs turning into quiet sobs. And then we're back where we started, facing the same 3 tunnels. Only now something's different. I can feel it, a shift in the air. Sophie stops crying and looks around with wide, fearful eyes. "It's different," she whispers. I take a step forward, and something crunches under my boot, a small bone. I stop and look around. More bones, some larger, some smaller, scattered across the floor. I shine my flashlight into the darkness and see more bones piled up against the walls, some partially covered in dirt. My blood runs cold. Sophie gasps and clings to my arm, her eyes wide with horror. "Wait, what is this place?" she whispers. "Some kind of tomb," I reply, my voice shaking. We move forward cautiously, stepping over the bones. The air grows colder and damp, and the musty smell becomes more pungent. I can feel a presence, something malevolent, watching us. We reach the end of the tunnel, and before us stands a massive stone door, covered in symbols and runes. The door is slightly ajar, and a faint light spills out from the crack. I push the door open and step inside, Sophie following close behind. The room is filled with an eerie blue light, emanating from a large crystal in the center of the room. The walls are lined with shelves, filled with ancient tomes and scrolls. In the corner, a figure is hunched over a table, scribbling furiously. I approach cautiously, my heart pounding in my chest. "Chloe?" I call out softly. The figure freezes and slowly turns to face us. It's a young girl, her face pale and gaunt, her eyes wide with fear. She's covered in dirt and grime, and her clothes are torn and ragged. But it's her eyes that strike me the most. They're filled with a terror so profound it sends chills down my spine. "Who are you?" she whispers, her voice trembling. "I'm Jack," I reply. "I'm here to help you." She looks at me with a mix of hope and disbelief, her eyes filling with tears. You're real?" she whispers. I nod and step closer, reaching out a hand to her. "Come with me," I say softly. "We're getting you out of here." She hesitates for a moment, then takes my hand. Sophie rushes forward and embraces her sister, tears streaming down her face. The two girls cling to each other, sobbing. I give them a moment, then gently pull them away. "Let's go," I say, leading them back through the labyrinth. We navigate the tunnels, retracing our steps until we finally emerge back into the dim light of the basement. We climb out of the trapdoor, and I slam it shut behind us, sealing it with the same warding symbols. Sophie and Chloe collapse into each other's arms, crying with relief. I step back, watching them, my heart pounding in my chest. We've made it out. We're safe. For now. But I can't shake the feeling that something is still down there watching, waiting. The trapdoor is sealed, but I know it won't hold forever. One day, it will open again, and whatever lies beneath will rise once more. Don't forget subscribe and press like. Thank you for watching.